speak now to Antony Loewenstein. He's the author of Palestine Laboratory and was based in occupied East Jerusalem between 2016 and 2020. Antony, welcome to the programme. I just want to pick up on what my correspondent was saying there from occupied East Jerusalem about the potential timing of Israel's ground assault on Rafah. Mohammed was saying that with Ramadan around the corner, this would not sit well with the Muslim world to see images of a ground assault by Israel on Rafah. What's your sense on this and the timing of this potential offensive?
To put it mildly, I mean, it's interesting how when we have these conversations, I don't mean you and me, but broadly in the international community, it seems as if somehow the US frames itself as helpless. We've asked Netanyahu not to do something and somehow he hasn't done it. Who's the superpower here? Who exactly is in charge here? Who exactly is funding, arming the Israelis? It is Washington. And I noted a few days ago in Politico, the American publication, they said from a couple of senior US officials, despite Biden's apparent concern about a Rafah invasion, saying that if Israel does end up doing this in the coming days or weeks, there'll be no penalties, no punishment for Israel. This essentially is the problem. And finally, when we talk about the Arab and Muslim world, I would suggest that many Arab states could do so much more. No Arab country has cut ties with Israel. Not one. They've expressed concern, they're outraged, they're worried, they'd like the war to stop. Okay, that's lovely, but beyond that, what are they doing? Literally nothing. Are they considering not buying Israeli weapons anymore? Are they considering not buying Israeli surveillance equipment anymore? They're not. This is the fundamental problem, and I think during Ramadan you'll have a hell of a lot of people on the Arab street who are saying, what is my government doing or not doing when it comes to this issue?
Absolutely. And just to quote the EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell just a few days ago, just making that point on the weapons, just stop selling them, right? And like you say, the US seems to be playing like a helpless person. They are the superpower. I don't know. Why does it also seem that it's not getting through to Netanyahu? It just really seems that he's intransigent to anything the White House is saying.
Just 2 points on that. When the EU chief said that a few days ago, my response was similar, as if, who do you think is selling weapons to Israel apart from America? It's countries in the EU, including Germany. I mean, the EU is the biggest trading partner of Israel for years. The EU, many nations in the EU, particularly Germany and others, have been selling huge amounts of weapons to Israel before October 7 and certainly since. So if he wants to get serious about selling weapons, talk to his own colleagues in the EU. I don't see it so much as Israeli intransigence. I see it as an Israel, and by the way, not just Netanyahu, but much as in the Israeli public supports, not Netanyahu, they do not support him, but they do support an ongoing campaign in the war in Gaza, that there's never been accountability. Why would a country stop if they realise that what Biden and the EU is saying is toothless? They don't fear any ramifications. They don't fear any sense that an Israeli soldier or general or minister may be put on trial for war crimes. And I suspect in the coming months and years, you will see a handful of maybe global South or global North nations putting out arrest warrants for a number of Israeli generals and military officers and soldiers. And whether that leads to a trial, of course, who knows? But it essentially may mean that there is a degree of possibility of accountability. This is what happens when a state is given impunity for decades. And it's incredibly disturbing to see.
Antony, what do you think will happen in Rafah, given this lack of accountability that we're seeing, this sort of fearlessness now by Israel to just go ahead? Do you think they will just go in without an evacuation plan for the people of Rafah?
Well, I do note that in the last 24 hours, there's been some reports, including in the Wall Street Journal, that there is an evacuation plan of sorts, but it's essentially ethnic cleansing. In the Sinai, on the Egyptian side, there is, at Rafah, there apparently is a space being constructed for around 100,000 Palestinians, allegedly, behind concrete walls. Now, one can only guess what that's about. I mean, since October 7, Israel's been putting huge amounts of pressure on Egypt to take in huge amounts of Palestinians. Egypt has thus far not gone along with that, despite being attempts of massive bribes, selling more weapons, etc. And I have friends in Gaza who I've been speaking to in the last days who are saying they obviously are living under hellish circumstances, to put it mildly. They do not and will not go to Rafah if that border opens. They don't want to leave. Gaza is their home. And I fear unless there is a direct, massive pressure, not just comments, but actual pressure stopping the sale of arms, a potential military embargo, at least the threat of that, Israel will go into Rafah and cause absolute more carnage.
Antony, fantastic to speak to you as always and get your analysis. Antony Loewenstein, author of the Palestine Laboratory. Really appreciate it.